Shocking allegations, tax troubles, and even murder most foul. Here are some of the worst scandals ever faced by America's most famous bounty hunter. Society generally has little time for convicted murderers, which makes the rise of Dog the Bounty Hunter all the more unlikely. In 1976, Dwayne "Dog" Chapman was in Texas, where he was found to have been involved in the murder of a drug dealer. Jerry Oliver was shot dead by one of Chapman's friends during a cannabis deal, with Dog waiting in a car outside. In a later interview, Dog said, "I should not have been there. That's that." However, being in the car that day led to him being charged with murder and eventually sentenced to 5 years in prison. He served 18 months, a time he spent, in his words, growing a conscience. Prison life can be challenging, of course, and it was during this difficult time that Dog embraced religion, an experience that changed his entire worldview. He later admitted, "God turned my life around in prison, and I believe that no matter who you are or where you're at, God can change your life." Dog has done little to hide the fact that crime changed the course of his life. On his show, he makes special mention of the importance of redemption, often pointing out that his life was turned around by finding Christianity behind bars.
If God can forgive everybody, so can we.
He has also been open about the difficult experiences he went through after first being released from prison in Texas. In 2020, Dog told the New York Times, "They said, 'You can't even get a driver's license. You'll have nothing.' I looked in the mirror to shave and heard my dad saying, 'Burn your birth certificate. I wish you were never born.' I said, 'I'm going to change and be the best at whatever I do in the world.'" But Dog's murder conviction has made quite an impact on his career. Dog famously never carries a deadly weapon, which is framed on Dog the Bounty Hunter as a personal choice. In fact, he is banned from having guns due to his conviction. The same conviction also affected his ability to hold a bounty hunting license in certain states and prevented him from traveling to the UK for reality TV work. More recently, he has sought to have his murder conviction quashed, which would allow him to fulfill his dream of running for sheriff in Texas. It has been claimed that Dog saw a future for himself after tackling a fellow inmate who was attempting to flee the prison, after which he became a bail bondsman and bounty hunter. He went on to become incredibly successful and claims to have captured a record number of fugitives over the course of his long bounty hunting career. But Dog's bounty hunting hasn't always seen him on the right side of the law. He ran into trouble in the early 2000s while in pursuit of a high-profile fugitive named Andrew Luster, the heir to the Max Factor makeup brand. Luster was on the run after being charged with multiple sex offenses. Dog and 2 others pursued Luster to Mexico, where they beat the FBI in uncovering his location and detained him so that he could be put on trial in the US. However, bounty hunting is illegal in Mexico, and so Dog and his team found themselves arrested for kidnapping.
It was a devastating blow for him. He won't go to work.
The charge hung over Dog for several years before it was finally dismissed in 2007. By then, however, the publicity arising from the Luster case had propelled Dog to reality TV stardom. Ever since Dog first found fame with Dog the Bounty Hunter on A&E, both his family and his love interests have shared the spotlight with him. The most famous of the Chapman family besides Dog is undoubtedly Beth Chapman, his wife, who starred alongside Dog from the show's inception. Beth's bold personality and unrestrained potty mouth gave the show a great deal of character. Sadly, Beth died of complications from throat cancer in 2019. Having chosen to end treatment for the disease, she said, "I want to die in my boots." Beth's illness and death was captured in another of Dog's shows, Dog's Most Wanted, with Beth reportedly insisting every aspect of her story be filmed. Dog had met Beth in 1986 when he posted her bond after she was found to have stolen a lemon from a store. They were married in 2006, but this was far from Dog's first legal union. He had been married 4 times previously, including one marriage that took place just days after their meeting. Months after Beth's death, Dog announced his engagement to Francie Frayne, a widow who went on to become his 6th wife in 2021. Dog's daughter, Bonnie Chapman, has remained highly critical of her famous father for several years. She routinely makes public statements that lift the lid on what appears to be a strained home life for the reality TV star. One of the biggest bombshells that Bonnie has dropped over the years has been the claim that Dog is a consistent adulterer. According to Bonnie, Dog's 13-year marriage to the beloved Beth Chapman was undermined by his frequent liaisons with other women. Bonnie claims that she was aware of her father's affairs throughout her childhood. Moreover, she accuses her father of continuing to have affairs even when Beth was in the hospital. and that he hooked up with one of Beth's friends while she was on her deathbed. Dog has denied the accusations, claiming that his daughters have been indoctrinated by former business partners looking to hurt his reputation.
I'm a good man. I would have never done that.
Bonnie Chapman says that one of the reasons she and Dog no longer see eye to eye is because he has become increasingly allied with evangelical Christianity, which has colored his worldview when it comes to homosexuality, and much more besides. In a 2021 Facebook post, she wrote, "If my dad and his new wife want to travel to right-wing churches attacking gay people and advancing QAnon theories, he can certainly do that, but I'm going to stand by the memory and legacy of my mom, Beth Chapman. Her memory and the values she stood for are worth fighting to advance." Beth also claimed that he has been known to use homophobic slurs. Dog has denied the claims, pointing out that he has a gay daughter and gay men on staff. Most of these accusations came on the eve of Dog's 2021 wedding. Since then, however, there have been more revelations, including that of a supposed rant in 2023 in which he attacked transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Dog reportedly said, "Rebuke Satan out of him and just give him a couple black eyes. I mean that. If I ever see him, I'm dropping him." Dog has also allegedly suggested that LGBTQ+ people are estranged from God. Perhaps the most damaging scandal in Dog's career came in 2007, when his fame was at its zenith thanks to the success of Dog the Bounty Hunter. That year, Dog's son, Tucker, leaked an audio recording of a conversation between him and his father to the National Enquirer. On the tape, Dog can be heard making multiple racial slurs about Tucker's black girlfriend. News of the recording sparked widespread outrage, leading A&E to indefinitely shelve the upcoming season of Dog the Bounty Hunter. More recently, Dog's 2021 show, Dog Unleashed, was canceled before making it to air due to what executives described as a breach of contract. However, Bonnie Chapman has waded into the controversy. At the time, she worked for Unleashed Entertainment, the production company behind the show. Bonnie claims that Dog had again been fired for using racial and homophobic slurs. Hoping to put the rumors to bed, Dog sat down for an interview with Entertainment Tonight.
I have never been a racist. I'm 33.5% Apache.
Dog also insisted that he'd believed he'd earned a pass from black people to use racial slurs while in prison.
My pass expired for using it, but no one told me that. To say a racist name doesn't qualify to make you a racist.
Dog described his previous use of racial slurs as an Achilles heel.
Would I die for a gay man or a black man? I'd lay down my life.
Dog's long career as a bounty hunter and TV star seems, from the outside, to have been highly lucrative. As fans of the show know, hunting fugitives can lead to huge financial rewards, while starring in a series of hit shows has undoubtedly earned the Chapman family millions of dollars over the years. But the true state of Dog's finances isn't quite so rosy. In fact, one of his biggest financial stresses has its roots in his 2003 arrest in Mexico. During this incident, the future star apparently amassed a great deal of legal fees that he was still required to pay nearly 2 decades later. According to a report published by gossip website TMZ, the A&E star had gotten into a dispute with his former legal team that led to multiple cases between the parties. This ultimately led to Dog having to swallow a judgment in 2013 that stipulated he owed his former lawyer more than $880,000 plus interest. As of 2021, the total stood at just under $1 million and remains unpaid. Dog's financial situation has become even more precarious as a result of tax liens against him totaling around $1.6 million. With his original reality TV show off the air and new spin-offs failing to find an audience like they once did, this likely means trouble for the man whose net worth is said to be around $6 million in total. In 2023, Dog's vast family tree grew even bigger with the shock revelation that Dog had a son that his fans, and seemingly Dog himself, had not previously known about. Writing on Instagram on the anniversary of Beth Chapman's death, Dog said, "For the last 4 years, this day was a terrible reminder of one of the greatest losses of my life. But God redeemed this day when I discovered my son John, who I just met recently, was born on this day. So now instead of sorrow, this day has a new meaning. This is my son John and his wife Jody." The news was a big surprise and therefore widely reported across the internet. However, Dog remained tight-lipped on the details of his and John's relationship, or how they had finally come to reconnect. Dog did, however, suggest that their story would be told in his then upcoming book, 9 Lives and Counting, simply adding, For anyone who has suffered a terrible loss, please know God restores and redeems. Happy birthday, son. Love you both.
Get a box of Kleenexes, brother.
You might be forgiven for thinking that the discovery of his long-lost son, John, was timed very carefully by the reality star, especially considering the controversies he has faced in recent years. In particular, Dog was widely criticized due to one high-profile incident back in 2021. That was the case of Brian Laundrie, the American man who disappeared on a road trip after the death of his fiancée, Gabby Petito. Laundrie's disappearance sparked a huge manhunt, and so Dog decided to stage a search of his own. He drafted a team to help find the missing man, whom Dog assured the public was likely still alive and in hiding. Dog's attempt to center himself in one of the biggest news stories of the year was met with skepticism, with many outlets reporting that Dog had no license to detain criminals as a result of his murder conviction, a point his team disputed. More tellingly, however, was the fact that his stepdaughter, Cecily Chapman, went public with her criticism of her father, claiming that Dog's hunt for Laundrie was nothing more than a publicity stunt. Indeed, reports claimed that Dog had even pitched a show about the hunt for Laundrie to A&E, the network that first made him famous. Apparently, that pitch was rejected.